what we should be doing.
So remember, Baba didn't just take us through one school of thought.
That's right.
We went through Islam, the 3 degrees, Islam, Judaism, Christianity. We went through the orders of Melchizedek. We went through our Egyptian orders. We went through our Nuwabian shrine orders. In order to put all of these orders together, he has to be a grand potentate, which means the one who creates the orders in order to raise the blind, deaf, and dumb. He got to be authentic with it. You know, so going through a school of thought without taking a side, looking at it objectively, gives you the ability to see what's really going on over here. So whatever school of thought he took us through, it was for us to see it so that when it come back up, we can recognize it. The way that they had us before, we was on one school of thought and one school of thought only. Go to school, go to church, get a good education, get a good job, and die. That was it. Now we're looking at different ideas, expanding the mind. When the mind started to expand, once some motherfucker hears some shit that he didn't know before and he know it now, he can't unlearn that shit.
Yeah.
So all of the schools of thought was to give you an inside look from the outside of what's going on in the degree. He looking at it literally from what we call the third eye perspective, as like remote viewing the structure, the layout, the cause and effect potentialities within the order in order to teach you how to rise above it. That's what's the catalyst behind Nuwapu.
You said that's the catalyst. You said that's the catalyst behind Nuwabian?
Behind Nuwapu.
Mm.
The sound, right, reason, and science. You going through all them different schools, but you remain a Nuwapian from the Nuwabian Hebrew. I mean, the Islamic, the Nubian Islamic Hebrews, through the Holy Tabernacle Ministries, through the Egyptian Church of Christ, all the way down. You still was a Nuwabian from start to finish. You was learning Nuwapu the whole time through all of those, but you was living the culture that they're trying to impose on you because you can feel that's not your culture. When you over here in Brooklyn, New York, and you trying to identify with a Saudi Arabian doctrine, right? Soon as you put on Jollibee and sandals in December, you automatically know this doesn't go to this land. This is a disconnect.
Hell yeah, I grew up in Brooklyn. That shit is cold as hell. Like, bro, we need a snorkel out this bitch and some Timbs. Shit.
Now look, you take an Eskimo out of Alaska to Saudi Arabia, that motherfucker not putting on none of his shit. He ain't putting that big furry ass coat, them big furry ass boots, or them big furry ass pants. He'll just be standing butt booty ass naked in Saudi Arabia. And he'll know right then, I can't be from here. This is a disconnect because I can't wear my gear. That's how they know where they belong on the land. The ones who belong in the warm climate to the cold climate. Nature already got us weeded out. We just ain't paying attention to how it's moving. These is what all of the degrees in the schools of thought that Malachi sent us through. This is how you use that to your advantage. All of the critical thinking you see me doing was inspired by the Nation of Islam, the Nuwabians, and the Moorish Science Temple, and the Christian Church. This is where my original teachings stem from.
Right.
Right? But I had an organic teaching that was separate from all of that. We call it today the voodoo. I was studying the voodoo my entire life without even knowing I was studying it because you taught it by masters that can't tell you they teaching it to you.
Why is that?
Because you have to be able to have the right frequency in order to tie into your Orisha, or some people say your lower, right? And then you have to make that connection yourself as part of self-discovery. Man, know thyself. It's part of your shadow work. Because you can't find you looking outside in the world. You can only find you inside of you because that's where you live at.
Right.
Right. So they can't tell you who you is. That's ego gratification. That's the ego development. But what they can do is they can give you a lesson that they're not telling you is a lesson that's part of the voodoo conjure for balancing out the laws of nature. I didn't understand half of that shit when I was a baby that I understand now when I look back on, and I know why it's stuck out in my memory when I'm dangling upside down here and my big mama say, "Look at here, Shirley, you look like you got the bearing." Right? I'm wondering why, I'm still remembering as a child, why the fuck she got me upside down dangling me by my ankle. And I wasn't a year old.
Wow. So, from your perspective, what should we be doing now today? What is the things that you feel like we should be concentrating on now today?
Separating from this system so this motherfucker can fall. Don't nothing else matter. Because until this system fall, it's going to make more and more suffering for the innocent when it do. And it's going to make it longer to reboot the new system.
Right, it's like you're still stuck in the matrix.
Yeah. They still tied to the paper chain of contract law. Remember, it tell you in the Christian doctrine that he didn't come to free you from anything but the law. If you don't have no law, there is no sin. Paul talked about that shit with his half a fag ass.
So separating from the system. So what's your perspective on people who, I'm gonna just say in the conscious community, I'm gonna narrow it down, even though you may have a perspective on the greater whole, but more so brothers and sisters that's in the conscious community that still support our children, the younger gods and goddesses, going to be educated at the public school systems.
What's the question though? I don't get the question.
What is your perspective on them still sending them to the same institutions, the same educational institutions that perpetuate the system?
Those institutions are toxic environments, and they also where they be watching your child to figure out who's gonna get abducted next. If you're sending your child there, you ain't too sharp of what's going on. They're using that as a slave training system. It's all Pavlovian response Skinner box training now.
Oh shit! Not the classical and operant conditioning.
That's what it's all about.
I already know. I done had these conversations for years about Pavlovian conditioning, or what they may call classical conditioning, and then like you were saying about B.F. Skinner, he ended up refining it with the rat, and creating or pretty much designing the operant conditioning techniques.
Mm-hmm.
So what about for the parents who feel like, hey, I'm not in the circumstance to be able to homeschool, and they don't feel like there are enough schools.
This shit ain't that hard. Motherfuckers be trying to make it hard. It ain't that hard. All of the sisters that got jobs and that's working, this one sister that's not working, that's sitting at home on her ass eating bonbons, watching soap operas, that could be helping teach the kids if y'all gave her a responsibility that she can handle. That's awesome, made up shit. We got every excuse to fail, but we find very few excuses to succeed. The justification of failure is in such abundance that the desire to succeed is so undermined that we would rather fall on the foolishness of the justification than strap on our motherfucking big boy panties or big girl panties, big boy drawers, and handle that. The shit ain't even hard as you think it is, but it's hard because you haven't tried it yet. You gotta be able to make this motherfucking reality be into your will. That's how you know if you're using your willpower or if somebody using your willpower. If your willpower got you sending your child somewhere else to get educated, you are giving your power away by giving your child away. You undermining yourself without ever knowing you undermining yourself.
And it's crazy that you say that, because I just had this conversation with a few sisters the other day, and that was one of the main, I'm gonna say, excuses. How are you gonna send your child to school? When do you have time to? I mean, how are you gonna not send the children to school? When do you have time to pretty much educate them if you got to go out and work?
Education is an ongoing process. Whether you work or not as a parent, it's your responsibility to educate them better than the system. The system is only training them to be a subject to the system. If you want them to rise up so they don't have to go through the shit you're doing, you make a way. They looking for excuses, man. All they looking for is
they make a way for every damn thing else. That's what I told them. Y'all make a way for everything else.
They got time to sit in the motherfucking weave shop for 8 hours getting that motherfucking weave weaved in there. Why you can't figure out how to get 8 hours a week of actual teaching time to the child when you would sit in the 8 hour micro braid session, zillion session. I just seen girls had to go home, go to sleep, get up in the morning, come back for another 8 hours to get them motherfucking zillions.
That's crazy. I watched my sisters and them go sit 2, 3, 4 hours just to get their nails and their feet done.
Okay, so if you can get your nails and your feet done, you can find time for your child. Look, all of the women that I personally know, even when they child not at school, they trying to teach them something or they trying to put them around somebody to teach them something. I don't know none.
Okay, so go ahead, finish that thought, and I'm gonna read you what I don't know what CPS is, but the brother Matthew.
Child Protective Services.
Huh?
That's Child Protective Services.
Okay, Child Protective Services. Now, I grew up in homeschool, and I just had this conversation with a few of the women. It is not illegal to homeschool your children. You can sign your children out. I have done it, and you fill out the paperwork, and they give you two options. Either you can sign them up for a homeschool program, whereas the program keeps up with the school system itself, or you can decide what books you want to teach the child and prepare the child for whatever test that the school has organized or created for them and get them up to speed with the test. But we're not saying take them out of school and don't participate. No, I'm not saying. Let me just finish. I'm not saying take them out of school and then go to jail because you're not doing the educational program. Period. Now that does happen because when one of my ex-mates, when I took her son out of school, she didn't finish filling out the paperwork. So it was like he was still enrolled in school and he was missing days. But once when the paperwork got, because he was autistic, once when the paperwork got completed, I put together pretty much the same school system that we had in the tab. And I was able to educate him in Wabic and bring him up to speed. When he finally went back to school, he graduated in a regular class and went to college.
Mm-hmm. That's the reason they don't want you to homeschool. Look, the curriculum our 12th graders get here is like 5th or 6th grade in Japan. It's like 7th or 8th grade in Germany. Look, for those who want to do further investigation on the educational system, there's a lady named Charlotte Isserby on YouTube who was the director under the No Child Left Behind program of the Department of Education. And study the educational system they're telling you to send your child to. You have an inalienable right to educate your child and not participate in the system. They can't interfere with that right unless you agree to allow them to interfere. That's right. If you're a sovereign. That's if you know who you are. If you don't know who you are, you better follow their rules to the letter till you figure this shit out.
So, all right. So, this person, Ross777, and shout out to V Money, Walakum Mashug, to the brother. But it says, can we do a declaration to claim our organic rights to not deal with contracts? I took mine out.
Listen to the sentence. Read the sentence again.
He says, can we do a declaration to claim to claim our organic rights to not deal with contracts? I took mine out.
Okay, now A declaration, you don't need, a sovereign doesn't need permission to make a declaration. That's the first thing you understand about no big eyes and no little U's. The government ain't bigger than you, and you ain't bigger than the government, right? The government here is to serve the needs of the people. There's nowhere in the needs of the people do you have to make a declaration as to who you is. That's all in the corporate structure of bookkeeping. If you don't know what lane you fall in, you could easily get trapped up. So in the oral tradition, because we got to use our traditions, our ways to overthrow their system. So an oral declaration in the public domain, any social media platform, is called an archivable format that has been already ruled on as a viable means for public notice. So if you put public notice and you tell the motherfuckers you rescind all contracts and exercising your sovereign rights and identify who you are as a sovereign and not your straw man. That's why I tell everybody when you go through stages of awakening, your name gonna change. Because who you are is changing too. Every 7 years, you got a whole different cellular makeup. And that's a whole lifetime for the past you. At 7 years old, the you that was born is no longer here. But the new that's about to go into the next 7 years has arrived.
Right. So this says, Mondays for short say, my declaration is what I say. Okay, so can you explain to the brothers and sisters the meaning of a sovereign and how that applies? Because I think that, from my experience of speaking with people about it, it's misconstrued.
It is. So remember, the Dred Scott case said we had no rights that a so-called white person is bound to respect. A white person in law is a free white person in law, meaning they are some kind of royal or noble class, right? If you are an organic being, then you are not under anybody's jurisdiction that's not in agreement with your claim. The problem is the clans don't know who they are, so we can't come together like transformers fast enough. It's moving, but it's moving slow as hell.
So in the redemption manuals, how to become a secure party creditor, how does that relate in your perspective?
Okay, so in the redemption process as a secured party creditor, you are participating in asking permission from a legal fiction, which is a corporation masquerading as a government, to allow you to be an active agent on their behalf. That's what that is. You making a contract on a higher level. That's all.
Is
this
that the
time
same
going
thing?
into it knowingly and willfully, because the inferior can never validate a superior's position.
Okay.
So you be made an imbecile in law, a Dred Scott slave, 3/5 compromise, when you don't know that you the one supposed to be telling the system how to work. You supposed to get with a general consensus of like-minded individuals and make a public notice to the grievance and offer the solution. If the solution not available, you make it known that this is a fact-finding mission. Anybody got a solution to this grievance, feel free to solve the problem. You put it in the public domain, it becomes a standing declaration. So now the more of y'all do it or understand what's being done and make allegiance to be on one page with restoring the air, the land, and the water, then you can break free from the legal fiction. You got to exercise your superior right as an organic being to clean earth up. That's all. Once you understand that part, you don't need to understand nothing else, because the rest of it going to automatic. It's going to go into automatic pilot mode in your psyche. You're going to then begin to remember why you came here and who you are and how you're going to fix the problem from your part.
Right. And that makes all the damn sense in the world. So with that being said, another question is, what does because a lot of people that I was in contact with a few years ago was, on the sovereignty paperwork hard, and they was relating it more to property ownership, like land. How does that relate? How does the owning property relate to being sovereign?
The only people that own property in truth, see, you don't own property. You lease property.
You're damn right, because you got to still keep paying.
Right, because the property taxes is to ensure that you continue to keep the lease up. So you got to find out who holder in due course is. That's what you need to be in order to be a landowner. If you're not holder in due course, nobody has that deed because nobody can actually sell the land. They've been running the whole mortgage fraud for years, defrauding the people on how mortgages is done. They using your mortgage to take out massive loans in your name. And they already paid for the house. You did with your signature. But we don't know this shit. We don't know about all of the bills they passed to systematically allow their legal fiction to assume a superior jurisdiction.
And how can you explain that?
Tell people to recognize that they God is one thing we got to understand. One thing that's real important. Me personally, I'm gonna personalize this for myself so nobody don't feel like I'm picking on them. If somebody tell me, recognize I'm God, then they recognize the God in me. They should know, if they know anything about me or anything about the legend that leads you to who I am, they would know one thing. I might not do nothing you want me to do. I might not do nothing you tell me to do. But I guarantee you, I'm going to do everything I'm supposed to do, when I'm supposed to do it, how it is told to me to do it until I get it right. But just because it don't look like, sound like, smell like, or taste like how you want me to move, that don't mean I ain't moving the way I'm told to move by the Spirit. And that's where we all get caught up trying to keep up with the Joneses. You can't keep up with the Joneses in the spiritual pursuit because the Joneses is looking after the dollar. Joneses is trying to go to work every day, which ain't nothing wrong with that because that's part of the struggle. I've been working my whole life since I can remember. I remember shoveling snow when I was 5 years old. So I know that, work is part of being who we are. But it comes a point like now. I'm done with this system. I'm done with the way they run this system. I'm done with the falsehood, the lies, the bullshit, the deceit, the treachery, the fake love, the fake hugs. I'm tired of all of that. So I don't want no more parts of it. I'm done participating in foolishness and ignorance. I'm done. So if you think that I'm just going to accept it because you said it, you're probably about 98% wrong. I'm not going to just accept it because you said it. And if you think I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, then you come show me what you think I'm supposed to be doing. And that's how I say that for anybody listening. If somebody tell you you're not doing your part to a sin, you tell them to show you what the hell they think you ought to be doing if they think you're not doing it right. Because there is no blueprint for majority of us. The blueprints are all in the Catholic Church, and we have them. They written. Step-by-step instructions to a sin at any given day of the week. We have that. But Francis don't want to release it as that parasite in them been holding the documents hostage. But we don't need them. Because we didn't always have things written on paper. We got stuff written in our DNA. If we follow the DNA, if we follow the obstacle, what make us emotionally struggle, then we'll find the path. Because fear, pain, and misery are the tools of control. If if you study, did the volume go down again? Facebook be doing that, so I just be sitting here in the same spot and the volume will go up and down on its own. Anyway, so if you study and you do your part, then the only person can tell you whether you're doing it correctly or incorrectly Can you hear me now, Don? Anybody can chime in if y'all can hear me. I don't know what's going on with this Facebook situation. They've been trying to stop me for a long time from delivering information. So it don't really matter. I'm still gonna put it out. Oh, okay. Okay, so here we go. The blueprint is on your DNA. So you're gonna have these urges, feelings. You're gonna be angry at stuff that don't make sense to you. That's because you're supposed to think through it. You're gonna feel heartbroken about a relationship and the person you ain't seen in years. That's because you're supposed to think through it. Why am I feeling this way? What does this mean? How do I handle this experience? Yep. When you put all these things together in your mind while you're going through these erratic emotions, you start making the emotion make sense. When the emotion begin to make sense, this is where you at mentally. Raising it from here, you at the eye level. When the emotions start to make sense, emotions don't make sense. Emotions generally don't make sense. They're irrational. But when they start making sense, you've raised your mental and your emotional to a similar level. You know what I'm saying? You raise them to a similar level. Now the emotions and the mind working together. This is the ascension. When that harmony, that divine masculine, divine feminine within start playing off each other. Because the brain, right side of the brain is feminine, left side masculine. Right brain creative, left brain is organizing. So it's linear logic. Right brain is abstract, artistic. Left brain is linear mathematic. So when you can bring the two together, then the artistic abilities start to make sense to the mathematics, and the mathematics start to be beautiful to the artistic. So you start making the two come together. And then this is when the king and queen chamber start to communicate regularly. That's what they call the sacred union in your brain. Well, in the 3D world, ceremonial magic works the best and is strongest for this reason. It gives us a point of reference, and that's the hardest thing to get when you're doing a silent meditation, is a point of reference, because you're in a free fall through upper ranks of dimensions. You're in a free fall up. And normally you fall down. That's how we got here when they blew that collider the last time and they made us come into this 3D realm and get stuck. But when we start to fall up and we're trying to orient to the chaos around us, because you're going through straight chaos as we going up. When we get to the top, now we can look over it and we can put the chaos in its correct order. This is what they call ascending to your God self, when you start to put the chaos in your mind in the correct order. All of these processes take place inside the self. You gotta conquer the irrational thought, right? The irrational thought comes from the emotions being expressed in mental imagery. Like, you got different learning styles. You have some people that learn through the feeling, they can feel it. Some people learn through the sound, they can hear it. Some people learn through the sight, and they can see it. And some people learn through the taste and smell, olfactory, and they can smell it, they can taste it. All these different sensations. Then you got some people that learn through all of them together. Omniscient, they can learn through any of it. When this takes place, you have to unite the mind stuff with the heart stuff. The creative and artistic with the intellectual and the mental. And when you do this, this is what causes all of those chakras to start spinning at a rapid rate. As they spin, it shoots the energy up to the next chakra. Most of us are blocked at the heart chakra by black goo. Now, I'm not going to deal with black goo because I dealt with it before. Y'all can look it up. The energy workers around the world is already telling y'all this black goo is a bad dude. It's hard to get out of the heart chakra. And it's a combination of science and what we call magic or sorcery. It's not just one. It's a combination of science and sorcery. They put them together to make them the most powerful force we could face. And it's been holding us back a long time. Yes. I like how you thinking, Curtis Henderson, because I'm gonna inbox you later because we're gonna do some work together because you bring up stuff that'll help a lot of people. Okay, so now when we looking in to the 3D world, we get stuck on the car, the house, the dog, and the mailman. Bullshit. Bullshit. That shit is passe. But they tell you not to be selfish. Now check this out. If you're trying to attain God status, they say you don't be selfish. But then as soon as you get God status, they say you God. All of it is about you. That's selfish. So that's a contradiction again. So you got to look for the contradictions, and then you got to find out why are they there. Why is the contradiction there? Because the contradiction is there to get your attention. It ain't there haphazardly. It's there to get your attention. Why is it telling you God stuff this way, guys think like this, and you can't think like a mortal because a mortal think like this, and it's the same shit. You know, it's the same shit. Yeah, they've been putting in a lot of movies about the black goo. As a matter of fact, the most popular one is Venom from Spider-Man. Venom is a personified black goo creature. And they kind of work something like that, but they only talk through the heart chakra. Meaning that when you, like for instance, my curse was unrequited love. So I'm probably going to be single till I die. But I'm good with that. Because as soon as I tell somebody I love them, it's over with. The relationship done. No, I can't do nothing to hold on to it because that's the curse. And it is tied to the black goo. When the black goo was removed from me, one of my students took it out. The Green 8, Dariel, took the residual black goo out. And he was like, man, what is this? I was like, it's the black goo, man. I didn't even go into it with him at that point. But ever since then, things has been happening at an alarming rate. And opening my eyes to a lot of things. One of the things is the process of the judgment day. We all right, India. We got this under control, sweetie. So, the judgment day, when the processes take place in the body, and we start to move up in the ascension, we start to see what it means about judgment day. See, everybody think that judgment day means God gonna come up there like the judge in the courtroom, hammer the gavel and give you a sentence, and it don't work like that, or with the gods, or with the ascended masters, or none of that. That's not how judgment day works. Somebody had to call judgment day. The curses are different, Juanita, but your life path, when you step back and you don't look at your life that you was living, you look at it from a third person perspective. Watch how you lived your life, and everything time something was going good, you did or said something, and then it all went south. Within a couple of weeks, it all goes south real fast. Your curse is whatever it was you did, is the manifestation of it. Soon as like for instance, some people are not allowed to have wealth. You can work and do good, but as soon as you cross a certain dollar barrier, you lose everything you got. You lose everything you got and you can't control it. And this is why a lot of celebrities die poor. Because that's their curse. Some people curse to not be allowed to have wealth. They can have everything in the world, but they can't have money. They can't accumulate wealth. That was a part of mine too. Because I can get the money. That's not hard. Getting money is easy. So once you learn how to ascend to your God self internally, and you know that for some people, ceremonial rites is what they call it, ceremonial magic. Ceremonial rites can accelerate the ascension. And then you know that when you start feeling all this crazy stuff inside, watch the thought. Remember, the thought is the cause of it all. Watch the thought. Let's say, for instance, it's one of your kids who you love dearly, and something say, kill that motherfucker. That's not you. You have to confront that. That's not you telling you to kill your child. That's not you telling you to kill the person that you love that sleep next to you. That's not you. And most of us think because it happens inside our own head that it's our own thought. But we never realized that when we was growing up, we picked that shit up from every foul spirit being around us that was not right. You know? Yeah. Juanita, message me, inbox me on Messenger, and we'll get together and find out what you need. If one feels less of an emotion in the heart for someone, but has surpassed the feeling, is that part of ascension process? First of all, the love energy that radiate through the heart chakra, if it attaches to another person's heart chakra, ain't no breaking that shit. Y'all became soulmates whether you wanted to or not. And normally this is why people are supposed to get married in monogamous marriages, is because they found somebody that they can face the world with, and they don't have the worry of when I go to work, is a plumber in my house. That don't even cross their mind, you know. But you want to make a connection with a person. I'm gonna tell y'all the biggest and most neglected. Just Jasmine, you can inbox me when you get it. The biggest connection that we make with another person is by seeing the best parts of that person and cultivating that in the other person. So when you look at relationships now, this is what we see. Guy meet a chick, he thinks she hot, she think he hot. Okay, now, at that point, that's pure animal lust. He don't know nothing about her, she don't know nothing about him, so there can be no compatibility other than the physical attraction. That's what you call animal lust. But the conversation takes off, and then they find out they have this many things in common. They make a connection. Where you lost it, Jacqueline? Anytime, Ashley, just inbox me when you're ready, and if I'm not doing nothing, I'll chat with you. Ascension is death for the ego, realizing real eyes all is one. Hey, I just went over that, because I was told by some of my enlightened brethren that I had to let go of the ego. Then I let go of the ego. You know what they told me? You God. Now you got to have an ego. Contradiction. Why is it there? Right? Now think about this. The gods run shit. And they have to feel like they supposed to run shit. They got to feel like they deserve the right to be in the position of power. They got to know it without a doubt. What's the difference in the fucking ego trip? What's the difference in the Messiah complex in an actualized God concept? And you can love someone without any benefit to yourself, that's ascension, but you can never lose the ego. Whew, y'all coming at me with this one. Y'all coming right and exact. Okay, so the ascension has nothing to do with outside of itself who you can love. The ascension has to do with how well your love can be purified with your purified thoughts. That is when you get to ascension. Because once you purify the thought, there's nothing low vibration left. That's why they call it purification. What's going on, Chris? Then the emotional purification. When you clear the emotions, when you clear that shit up, you clear the emotions up by not feeling negative emotions towards somebody you love, which took me into the relationship thing. Guys, girls meet. It's the attraction first, the chemistry next. But nobody knows what to do next, because what you're going to understand is we are creatures of habit. As creatures of habit, if you meet a new guy, if you're a girl, if you meet a new girl, if you're a guy, you're going to do all of the dumb shit you did to sabotage every relationship you ever had. When you go back and look at all of the dumb shit you did in your past relationships, you got to do it all at the beginning. Both of y'all, not just one of y'all, both of y'all going to do the same dumb shit, but it's not going to work. Because you're on another level now. So when all of that dumb shit don't work, all that foolishness not working now. Now you sitting here with this person and you exhausted all of the ignorance. Ignorance is exhausted at this point, and you looking at this person like, I still love them. I done did the dumb stuff, the ignorant stuff, the foolish stuff, the retarded stuff, the sick stuff, and they still here. They love me too. We got to make this work. Most people gone by now. And that's what when we got rid of the rites of passage, this is how our minds created one for us. In order for us to weed through the weak relationship to find a solid relationship, we learn a series of foolish and ignorant things that run weak people away. If the relationship is beginning off as a weak relationship, what we learn going through relationships teaches us how to get rid of the riffraff. But then there's always one we can't get rid of. They're either still standing there physically, or when we physically leave, they attach to us emotionally and we can't break the attachment. Sometimes that's due to other outside factors like blood rights or agreements made that haven't been correctly severed, contracts, soul contracts like that. But sometimes there's no contract involved. It's just the truth. And that also is a perfect candidate for you to do a ceremonial ascension with another person. And people keep forgetting that we can do that. Women get bitchy. Why do women get bitchy in a relationship? They losing their power and the man is not doing anything to empower her as a woman. That's fine, Jacqueline. Inbox me. As long as a man don't do nothing to empower a female as a woman, a relationship is going to always be rocky. As long as he's chopping her knees off every time she tries, and the same with him, as long as she's bringing him down every time he's trying to move forward and upward, the relationship not going to last. It can't work. Right? So we get to a point in our ascension where we start to see the rules for Judgment Day. Now I'm going to go over young Pharaoh, who I love that brother to death. That brother, he one of the Grail Kings too. I don't even know if he's aware of it, but I think he is. You know what, Chris? I'm not gonna deal with the attachment in the Buddha right now. But we're gonna touch on that. So on another video we'll go over some of the teachings of the Buddha and Dalai Lamas of the past, and maybe even some of the other great teachers, and what they were really talking about. The attachment that the Buddha talk about is attachment to the negative vibrations, the low vibration things that you attach to, because you got to attach to something anyway. All right, so now we ready to ascend. We ready to move to the next level, but there's a problem. We still got to clean this mess up. You can't go to nobody's house, mess their kitchen up, and just leave. That's rude, dirty, obnoxious. That's just foul. So before we can ascend into the fifth dimension, we have to clean it up. What do I mean by that? we had to show the people a lot of the deception out in the open in real time. So last week I heard young Pharaoh and General Seti called Dr. York out to judgment. Now, it sounds like they offered a debate to New Wabians. So if you're a New Wabian or if you know one, y'all need to pay attention. Pharaoh produced a document. It was a herpes test. And this herpes test is what they call in court, they call it a statement of fact. It's a statement of fact because it's medical evidence that has to follow a chain of command in the court system. And following the chain of command, it is presented as a piece of evidence to support the allegations and why they're there. So Pharaoh produced the document, right? That's part one. Now, if the other two parts not met, he's not calling for a judgment day. Second part. The second part is the vexation of the grievance. Now, the vexation of the grievance is supposed to be rude, obnoxious. Who you looking for? Oh, here you go. So, the vexation of the grievance. A classic example. A classic example of vexation of grievance is Tupac. Tupac done everything by the code of righteousness. That's crazy, because some of the stuff he was doing, you would think he was dead wrong. But the vexation of the grievances is the most critical part of the equation. So they went through a series of vexations of the Catholic Church being condemned for pedophilia, black people concealing in their families and in their communities the same shit that the Catholic Church doing. And before we can go deal with Francis and his pedophile priests, that we have to first clean our own communities up. That was the grievance vexed by young Pharaoh, followed by Seti putting the final call for judgment on Dr. York. And that being to say that they represent the ancestors. At that point, I can't, even if I'm a Nuwabian, I can't defend or condemn York. I have to listen to the facts. Because when the facts is presented, it's a couple things that has to take place. The public, the more I see if it's a valid or invalid judgment on York, the more I see it, the more powerful it be. So the judgment that's taking place with York is critical for his liberation if you're a Nuwabian. And I see you, Christ. So Seti said, this is real. I'm standing here for my ancestors. At that point, Judgment Day. The third prong of calling for judgment has been met. I don't care if the Nuwabians defend him or not. They should if they think he's innocent. And if he turns out, we have to use the judicial
back off a crossroads flip off of a Mother Margaret bouquet, Big Mama match Big Mama off Mother Margaret Waterford on the zigzag zig flip on my clan match your clan. So special honors out to the C Nation, and shouts out to the Rolling 60s, the Rolling 20s, Senyuka Shakur, aka Monster Cody. This is a Cricket Man message on the C Nation off of a knock to a knockback on the zigzag zig across the land. The red flipped the blue flipped the red. On the red knock to the knockback off the blue. On the SOS's flip the queens off the 5 to flip the matriarchy the ball. So now that I said all that, I could do my introductions. I mean my invitations. And what all of that meant was this is a special message from Nipsey grandmother. So I got a channeled message from her, and she told me to fuck teaching sex education. If they keep fucking, they gonna get good at that anyway. What they need is relationship education. She said, because if you know how to have a relationship versus a power struggle, y'all can find the harmony, and the harmony is the key to life. So, how y'all doing? All of y'all up in here. So, she wanted me to shout out to C Nation for protecting her boy Nip in the streets, especially Big U, Cowboy, um, the whole team that made sure that Nip was covered at all times, right? So rather than go into the Nipsey Hussle situation, she said relationship education. And it's funny because a friend of mine called me and asked me about relationship information. And I was like, damn, there's nobody and when you're young, like growing up, they'll teach you how to fuck. They call it sex education. But they don't teach you how to communicate with your partner. They don't teach you how to manifest with your partner by y'all observing the current situation and plotting the path to y'all best life. Everybody got a different understanding of their best life. But when two people work together, is you trim off the fat and y'all keep the meat. And you use the fat for fertilizer, right? And seasoning to cook the meat. So when you talking about relationship dynamics, we're talking about when we talk about relationship information. If you don't be on a path of self-discovery to the point where you go into the self-help section of the bookstores to look for information on how to have a functional relationship, because you realize that whatever the fuck they did to us over the last 500 years of this protracted struggle, because it's been 500 years, 1492 to 1992, plus another 30, right? So that's 430 years, right? So it's been 400 and motherfucking, 530 years that these motherfuckers has been at war with the people of the land. And the problem is they harsh treatment, mistreatment of us, they miseducation of us, and they writing the history and changing the faces of the characters in the history books kept us perpetually confused. Nobody couldn't figure out why this shit not making sense in this thing called life. Relationships is what they don't want us to have, right? I don't give a fuck what color your skin is. They don't want us having functional relationships. When you have functional relationships, you build partnerships, and partnerships build strong families, and strong families build strong people. The strong people not going to tolerate the bullshit when they understand that they the people of the land. This the land of the free, the home of the brave. They said that this was the land of the land of the savage and the home of the slave. But we not doing that bullshit. We not falling for the banana in the tailpipe no more. So you tell me they got 5,000-year-old ships from Egypt. These motherfuckers got 10,000-year-old ships from traded with China in the Pacific, but they ain't got no slave ship. They got to make replicas. Make this shit make sense. They got to have one of the motherfuckers somewhere, right? But the pattern that they lay out and call a slave ship is an overlay of Notre Dame University. Because that's where the dirty plots was hatched in academia. Miseducation of the Negro. deliberately miseducate the people so they can never properly function. L. Ron Hubbard say in the Dianetics that it's the same as trying to do a math calculation on the calculator, doing a math calculation on the calculator while you're holding down a button, another number. So if you want 3 times 3, you're not going to never get the right answer if your left index finger is holding down the 7 and then you type in 3 times 3 and hit equal. It's not going to give you a competent number. It's not going to be able to function. It's going to not compute. Right? That's not compute. It don't compute. It's going in the brain wrong. That's how we know that some of us are some go along to get along ass motherfuckers. Because the way the system is designed to undermine the building of families and strong family bonds and bonds and unity between different families in order to build communities. This is the basic of the community of the organic people of this land. So the building of the community comes with the leaders of the families all having what we call a town hall meeting. That's an old native tradition of the organic people of the land to bring the elders in the community together at the town hall meeting to discuss the needs of the youth in the community in order to turn out the best possible child for the future development of the community. So this is why they say it takes a village to raise a child, because everybody in the village have children. Common denominator. If we all got children, if I don't want nobody to mistreat my child, then I can't let nobody mistreat yours unless I expect you to ignore somebody to mistreat mine. And that's not how it works. When those family bonds and ties is built, when you grow up with groups of people and y'all build bonds like, hey, I ain't seen you in years, though. How you doing? Tell me about the family. What's been going on over time? Y'all still got that genuine concern for one another. That's an old tie. Right? And that carries weight in the development and the weaving together of a strong culture in any community. And these all start at the root with the relationship. The science of the relationship, it ain't for the man to dominate the woman. It's for him to help to focus her vision and his vision into one vision for both of them to have their best life scenario. The two together, positive and negative, masculine and feminine, is the batteries to the remote control. The manifestation process is the remote control. If they both is inserted into the remote control in the proper direction, then you get the proper frequency and current to be able to change the channel on the reality you create for your best life. The higher you can understand it, the higher your best life turns out to be built. That's why you got billionaires and then you got paupers. Oppression is atmospheric. The person who doesn't have a life plan has a plan to fail life, right? But you really can't fail. All you here to do is where your ancestors fucked up. You just want to, do the best you can to bump straight and not follow the energy of the negative ancestors so that the good ancestors can in your family tree can put them back in line, and therefore you can be the best fruit that fall from that tree. It's a process of self-development and shadow work. That's the part that nobody want to do. Shadow work also comes with learning psychic self-defense. Psychic self-defense is also building up of the spirit body so they can withstand spiritually negative attacks. A spiritual negative attack is saying it can be something as simple as a negative thought directed at you based on a prejudice or preconceived notion of who this person feel like you are versus who you really are, a misjudgment. That negative energy contributes to your ego self. And your ego self, in turn, seeks the hedonistic desire to gratify itself. And when somebody challenges the ego's first response is to defend itself because it wants to survive just like we do. But your ego is the sum total of the ideas of the people around you. They gave a perception to you, how they see you to you, and built your ego for you. It's up to you to say, okay, I accept this part of my ego, but I don't accept that part. That got to go, because that right there don't serve my highest good. This the shadow work, reorganizing the negative traits in humans that allow them to mistreat other humans, right? So you don't want to be a cannibal. So why would you allow cannibals to continue to eat people, right? You don't think pedophilia is right, but we don't say enough to stop it. We don't put an end to it by properly rearing children, by protecting them and keeping them from being abusers, because hurt people hurt people. And when you hurt people in a certain way, that's the same way they hurt other people. And that's what makes the generational curses perpetual. The building of a strong family bond is giving everybody their tools that they need to develop their own best life scenario in their life. Once you do that, you become the great facilitator of good things, because now you understand that uh, I don't know what this damn thing doing, but I need to figure out how to. Okay, so they fucked up our families. So it's up to us to put it together, put it back together. We can't expect none of the adversaries, the ones who miseducated us, the ones who kept their foot on our neck, the ones who tried to replace us. We can't never expect them to teach us proper leadership skills and proper family building skills. So we have to go into our culture and figure out how to take those best training tools that we learned from our parents and pass that on, so that you have an actual viable understanding of relationship and relationship development, and how to build strong bonds between yourself and others. And you learn this. If you are a single child, you don't get the same luxury of having siblings to grow up with, where you have to share things, right? Where one of y'all get to be the hand-me-down recipient, while the rest of them be able to get the original product, right? Because y'all growing at a different rate. They different, a little older than you, right? So when you start to put relationship matters um, out of the picture of community development, then the relationships start to suffer, because nobody is understanding the functional nature of the relationship and the balancing of the energies between